Welcome into a Friday edition of Sports Tonight. Bailey Burmaster alongside Lee Smith. We have a lot of NFL topics to get to today. We are going to avoid talking about the Bears because they continue to be a train wreck throughout the week. They had a missing golf cart. Was it a golf cart, Ellie?
Someone apparently stole a golf cart.
And they were looking for that on top of everything else. And lawnmowers. Tragic.
They can't get 24 hours of peace.
No peace. No peace in Chicago. So we're going to talk about some other topics. I want to start with how concerned you are about Joe Burrow. So anyone who's not been keeping up, last preseason, I think it was a appendix issue. He had to have his appendix removed, and he was out for a bit, but returned. This year, it was a calf injury. Now, he's played, but all of a sudden he is not going to play this week. Let's dive into that. They're adding some familiar faces to their quarterback room amid some uncertainty of Burrow's health. So Reed Sinnett has been signed to the team's practice squad. The move comes a day after Burrow did not practice because of that calf, and the team's reserve quarterback, Will Grier, was signed to the Patriots' active roster. So they're dealing with a little bit of a quarterback issue, and that's because of that strained right calf because of Burrow. Don't forget, he also just got super paid.
Yes.
But I don't think anyone was anticipating this to kind of be a nagging issue now going into week 3. How concerned are you, Lee?
He looks awful. Honestly, it's pretty bad. I mean, especially compared to what he can do. It is very bad. And it should be alarming for every Bengals fan out there because you've got one of the top probably 3 receivers in the game, but you can't get him the ball. And you just signed him to Joe to that gigantic contract. I mean, yikes.
So this Reed Sinnett, have you ever even heard of him, Lee?
No.
It's okay. I hadn't either. So he previously had been on the Bucs practice squad and the Dolphins and had played a little bit in the XFL in San Antonio until he suffered a broken foot. They also have Jake Browning.
Okay.
So he's probably going to play if Burrow can't play, which they play on Monday Night Football against the Rams.
Okay.
Browning has been with the Bengals since 2021 and won the backup job during the preseason. So.
But, could you imagine having, back-to-back AFC championships, or at least, you think you can go to at least back-to-back AFC championships?
Well, they're 0-2 to start the year, and now you're not going to have Joe Burrow on Monday Night Football against the Rams. They could be 0-3.
Reed Sinnett, who literally just learned who that guy was 30 seconds ago.
Well, and here's the interesting thing, too. Don't forget they started the 2022 season with 2 losses to Pittsburgh and then in Dallas. Yeah. And so maybe it's just something similar, but I don't know. It will be interesting to see if this Joe Burrow injury actually becomes a bigger issue. Lee, we were talking about it yesterday. There's been a lot of injuries in the NFL early on. There usually are a few, but I feel like there have been more than usual.
Yeah, and is it possibly the way that because training camp's been done, that it's a little bit different than this year than it has been? What is it? Is it just guys aren't training as much in general? What is it? I don't know. Is it the surfaces? Because I know a lot of people were talking about Messi
grass
when
versus
he was
turf
in town last week, and I don't know what it is, but it's crazy the amount of injuries these first 2 weeks. Crazy.
And another team that's dealing with a big loss are the Dallas Cowboys, who have started pretty hot. They're 2-0. They beat the Giants and then beat the Jets. They have the Cardinals this week for the 4:25 game. But they lose Trevon Diggs, who tore his ACL. Mike McCarthy saying that he just feels absolutely sick for him. Yeah. And that it's definitely a punch to the gut for the team and their defensive depth. So another one gets something that I thought was really funny, actually. So the same day Diggs tore his ACL, he was supposed to go to the Beyonce concert at AT&T Stadium for his birthday. He had bought sweet tickets for him and a few of his friends to go to the concert, and he said he couldn't go anymore. Now, whether he did or not, I don't know. I feel like the kid should still have his fun and try and get through it, but my guess is he had to get that ACL looked at and whatnot.
Well, and it's really bad for them because he was I don't know. I mean, obviously Micah Parsons, I would say, is their best player on defense. But if Trayvon's not number 2, he's got to be number 3. So you lose a top 3 defensive player, especially at a quarterback at a position where every NFL team's going to try and come in and throw the ball on you every week. That's a big blow. Now, they do have Stephon Gilmore, so, they've got a little bit of depth. But
I mean, they got some power on that defense in general because they got Micah Parsons, too, who's just been tearing it up.
Right, and right now they have 5 interceptions on the year. They're actually tied with the 49ers. So, and Trayvon actually had one of those picks. So, young season already had a pick, but now he's out for the year. I mean, it's not great, but it's not ideal, but there are way worse situations in the NFL than Dallas right now.
And there definitely is, and one of those might be the Carolina Panthers. So in the NFC South, Bryce Young will reportedly now be out for 1 to 2 weeks with a sprained ankle he suffered in Monday night's loss to the Saints. A lot of hopes for the rookie quarterback. It was always going to be hard to step into that club and make a huge difference with how not great the Panthers have been. And now they've lost 2 straight, one to the Falcons, then the Saints. They have the Seahawks this week. But you got to feel like this is going to suck even more momentum out of the Panthers.
Yeah. And you pick or you take a player number 1 overall like that, you don't expect him to be lost in game 3. So
no, and now you got to start Andy Dalton.
Well,
how do you feel about Andy Dalton? Are you a believer?
Not great, but he's got experience at least, so there's that. He might not make the dumbest boneheaded play you've ever seen from like a rookie make or something. I don't know. I mean, they don't exactly have any weapons on the offense, so it doesn't really help them much either. Though.
So here's some stats. Dalton will face a Seattle team that ranks 31st in total defense, giving up 422 yards per game. The Seahawks are particularly vulnerable against the pass, giving up 325 yards per game to rank 30th. Dalton is actually 1-1 against the Seahawks in Seattle, with his only 2 starts coming from when he was with the Bengals in 2011 and 2019.
Okay. All right. So feeling a little bit better because they got some shaky defense in Seattle.
It might give you some confidence.
Oh, yeah. But still, that's not good.
We got to talk about a team that's dealing with some wildly confident players after going 4-0 for the first time in school history. And we got to talk about Georgia State because they played on ESPN last night against Coastal Carolina, and they won 30-17. You could tell by Sean Elliott and the players' reactions, they were hyped. And you watched a little bit of this game, so what did you see, Lee?
So, first of all, the score should have been 30-10 because they actually botched a punt, and then they recovered it. So, pretty complete domination from start to finish. And there was like one spot maybe right after that punt block that happened where they were a little iffy. But other than that, it wasn't even close. And, Sean Elliott, this is pretty big for him. I mean, the team's only been around since 2010. Mm-hmm. They've never had this start to a first they've never had as good as a start to the first month of a season in their history. And it's pretty cool to see, given that they're like less than 5 minutes down the road.
Yeah, for sure. And here are some numbers I want to throw out. So for rushing yards, Marcus Carroll led the way, 29 carries, 150 yards, and 1 touchdown. Darren Granger, who has been super solid all season so far, 15 of 26, 191 yards, and 1 touchdown. He was actually the offensive player of the week for the Sun Belt Conference. So he looked really solid in this game. He looks really sound. He's also from Conway and was able to get a dub there, kind of throwing it in the face there.
Hey, that's 2 wins against them in Conway.
So I saw this stat last night, too, on the broadcast, because you had mentioned this is like the rubber match, kind of. Yeah. Do you know the away team has always won every single matchup?
Yes, and I heard that on the broadcast last night, and that's the only reason I know why.
I thought that was so funny.
Quirky, right?
It is so weird that is how it pans out. But you know what? They're going to get a real test at home next week. September 30th, Saturday, they host Troy.
Troy's a good team. Troy's traditionally a good team. I don't know exactly what they are this year, but
They
If you
traditionally
can go
are.
into wait, they host Troy.
Yeah, they host
Okay.
Troy.
All right, well,
So let's take a peek at where Troy is this season. They beat UTS. Oh no, that was last year. So they beat SFA 48-30,
okay.
and
Steve-
then
Steve
they were
Austin. Yeah.
totally beat by Kansas State 42-13. Oh, then James Madison beat them 16-14.
Oh,
They
okay.
play Western Kentucky tomorrow, so maybe they're not as dominant as they used to be.
Wishy-washy. All right.
Yeah.
So the Panthers got a good chance to go 5-0.
They play Marshall after that, so
All right.
I'm kind of intrigued to see how Georgia State fares. It's
That's
some
cool.
fun time for the Panthers. All right, Lee, let's
good to
wrap
see.
this up. What is on your mind?
Going to high school football tonight. We got Grayson is hosting Lowndes. And for anybody that's ever paid attention to Georgia high school football, Lowndes is a traditional power. Grayson is more of a newer power, but they've been dominating too in the last decade and a half. So should be a pretty cool atmosphere over in Loganville, and hoping for a good turnout, good overall play. A lot of recruits too, so it's going to be a good night for football.
So I am thinking about Messi, and we talked about yesterday me probably being 0 for 2 in fan favorites for Atlanta sports fans.
Yeah.
I'm hoping this will make it a little bit better, but probably not. So Messi did not play against Atlanta United when they came to the Benz. People were really upset, but Tata Martino is confirming that Messi once again will not play Sunday's game against their Florida rival Orlando City because he actually revealed that the World Cup winner is still dealing with a scar tissue problem he suffered while with Argentina, which was the issue of why he
So
maybe
it wasn't
was
just grass and playing
correct.
surface.
It wasn't.
Okay,
It
well, that's
wasn't
better, I
just
guess.
I'm sticking it to the man and I'm not going to play on turf. Now that might have a little bit to do with it, but he's still battling injury, and that seems to be the main concern. So it will be interesting because Inter Miami was kind of making a run there to a playoff push because of Messi's dominance when they added him to the team. But with him not playing, who knows how that will fall. But I just thought that was interesting and thought Atlanta United fans and people who wanted to see Messi when he was in Atlanta would be interested in hearing.
Still kind of stinks that he didn't play,
Correct.
obviously. But,
Correct. All right, that will do it for this edition of Sports Tonight. For Lee Smith, I'm Bailey Burmaster. Make sure to join us next week.